What is made for killing human civilization and destroy the world? This is arms. Arms industry boom worldwide except in China. CIPRI, an organization, has reporting that while global arms manufacturers saw combined revenue surge to a record high, China's weapons industry revenue contracted sharply following a sweeping corruption purge among top military officials. Donald Trump says there is a good chance of striking a deal to help end the war in Ukraine after talks between US and Ukrainian officials, emphasizing the goal to stop people from being killed. Welcome to SATV's International Affairs, broadcasting live from SATV's Dhaka studio. My name is Rashid Kanchan, your host. I have a very distinguished panelist today. I have former education minister, a politician and academician, Dr. Ehsanul Haq Milon in the studio. I have our international affairs commentator, very smart, young generation, Shamsul Alam Panthu. And from Washington, we have our geopolitical correspondent based in Washington, D.C., who covers White House, Oval Office, Congress, Senate, Norman Floyd Barnes, former ambassador and a veteran journalist and peace negotiator. Norman, I want to start from Shamsul Alam Panthu today because he has gathered lot of breaking news stories going on in the fast track in the world's top medias. Sir, Shamsul Alam Panthu.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kanchan. Of course, a very warm welcome to Ehsanul Haq Milon in the studio. I'm very happy to see him today. And of course, Norman Floyd Barnes, who joins us from Washington, D.C. I want to begin the discussion by saying that U.S. President Donald Trump has confirmed that he had a phone call with Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, but declined to provide the details about the conversation. We understand that the two nations are head-to-head regarding multiple issues. On the other hand, Venezuela had sought OPEC and its member countries to work together against this U.S. aggression, denouncing the U.S. threat to seize the country's vast oil reserves through a military farce. So this is regarding the Venezuela-U.S. tensions. On the other side, top U.S. and Ukrainian officials held talks, hailing the session as a productive and successful as negotiations continue on a peace plan to end the Russia-Ukraine war. In other side, the Iraqi Prime Minister Mohammad Shia al-Sudani met in Baghdad with U.S. envoy to Syria Tom Barrack to discuss ways of supporting Syria's stability, security and economic recovery.
Excellent, sir. I'm sure Norman has more in his basket because he lives in the world's capital, world's most powerful city, Washington, D.C., where most of the news breaks by the world's top media like Washington Post, CNN and other American media outlets. Norman, what you have in your basket?
Today, Monday, we start out with the continual conversations regarding the Ukraine and Russia situation. Hopefully, the parties are talking. They're trying to work out a deal, trying to come down to a final response to this peace deal. So hopefully we'll hear some additional information today or tomorrow regarding the situation over there. It's very upbeat. It looks very positive moving forward. However, on the other end, the situation in Venezuela, Congress is now looking at the attacks in the Caribbean with the military, particularly one happened in September when there was a speedboat that was destroyed. However, it did not kill two of the, I guess, passengers on the boat. And there was an order to give a second strike to kill, make sure the people are dead. So they're looking at that situation. They're trying to find out who actually gave the call, and they're looking at some type of, I guess, prosecution of this, because it's, again, we're getting into illegal. We talked about this act being illegal. Now we're looking at a situation we're basically trying to kill people. And that is something that our Congress and the people of the United States is not going to tolerate.
All
So
right.
that's where we're at right now.
All right, Norman, a bunch of breaking news stories, sensitive and diversified. Let me come back to my distinguished panelist in the studio, former Education Minister Dr. Anomo Ehsanul Milan, turned into academician and still politician. Sir, you heard the administration led by Donald Trump is actively pushing peace plans for major conflicts, especially in Ukraine or in Gaza. My first question would be to you, do you think Trump's approach of pushing peace deals in multiple conflict zones, I mentioned two, simultaneously is realistic or over ambitious?
Thank you so much, Mr. Kanchan, and good morning to Norman, and good afternoon to all you all.
Good morning.
It's a very good question. Why American, and especially Trump, is taking the world leadership, and he's negotiating everything like a very prompt, fast, non-structural, and it's like a fast-track business deal. You are telling me that. Well, there was 28 points initially discussed for the Ukraine-Russia settlement, and finally they came to 19 points. But obviously, the negotiator has to look what Ukraine wants. The Ukraine people's sovereignty, their independent, and how they negotiate. Till now, the negotiation points are not broadcast or it's not open to the people. That also one point. Trump want to take the leadership. Of course, United States can do that. They're the most powerful nation in the world. But obviously, keeping that thing in mind, he has to understand what is the politics going on, Russia and Ukraine, also the NATO, and how the American will pursue them. Keeping all those things in his mind and looking the people's, sovereign people's demand, what are they gaining. Also they have to look the follow-up after the negotiation. Certain negotiation cannot hold for quite a long time. So he has to, excuse me, my throat is a little dry because of the winter season, changing the weathers. Well, negotiation usually happens when international organization they works. I have seen Trump trying to negotiate, bypassing the international organization. Like certain organizations are chartered for that reason. Let's say in the year 1944, the United Nations was built in New York by the side of the East River, and they have a certain duties to negotiate that. What we had followed earlier, the international organization, when they are trying to negotiate, it takes a long time. If you recollect your memory, the negotiation had happened in our country during the BNP time with the United Nations leaders came here. It was not negotiated. After 20 years, we fall back the same pothole. So United Nations takes quite a long time to negotiate. But Trump is trying to do it in fast track. But he is not following the norms and behaves what should be and what the people want. The war is not for one day. It, like Gaza war, it was from 60s.
I understand. I'm very curious. You used one very sensitive term that some certain organization are chartered. This has, I think it belongs right to be discussed. I want to go to Norman. Norman, you have heard one term has been used by the former education minister in Bangladesh. He said some certain organization are chartered to do the negotiations. Along with, I want to do a question, what are the risks and benefits for global stability if the US under Trump becomes peace broker in chief? It is a new term I want to use, peace broker in chief. Would you please explain, because you are very experienced regarding the Washington establishment?
Thank you for the question. I would use the term instead of peace broker, I would look at deal broker in chief. The reason for that is the viewpoint is that the plan that is put out by the United States, the Trump administration, is at minimum very overly ambitious. It seeks to get wins, political political wins, but nothing really concrete in terms of dealing with the people who have to live there. Uh, it's a sustainable, it's a temporary ceasefire, but it's not peace. It's not long term, viewed as long term peace. Uh, there's a lot of risks because of the movement and how things are going, and how they're using these things to basically make deals, not peace, but deals. And these deals are all based on financial gains for certain people. So the actual core problems are not being addressed. It's not being put to the table to ensure a long-term permanent solution. We're only looking at temporary secessions to basically get people in place to make money, more people to make money on this situation. So it's a financial gain is more like a deal instead of peace.
All right, Norman, very humble explanation from you, but I need something more from Shamsulam Pantho, who has a good study on this events, especially this negotiation. Sir, I want to draw your attention on two particular terms. One is used by Ehsanul Haq Milan. He said some certain organization are chartered. I really noticed this word, the depth of this word. And I said that Donald Trump is going to be the chief broker for peace deal, and Norman said that he's a cheap dealer for peace. He's looking for opportunity to business. That's why he has included his son-in-law Jared Kushner without any government portfolio. I want to ask you, could this strategy undermine traditional multilateral diplomacy? If so, what could be the long-term consequences?
Thank you so much, Mr. Kanchan, for the question. I was hearing Mr. Millen and, of course, Norman Floyd Barnes, and from what I understood is that, earlier on in the year, Donald Trump had established a tariff schedule for almost 70 economies, but it did not come without any kind of talks or negotiation between the World Trade Organization, the WTO. So that is just one example. But today, if you look at Donald Trump, he is trying to host Ukraine and the leaders of Ukraine to come to understanding between Russia and Ukraine, so that this war of 3.5 years may come to end, eternally come to an end. And on the other side, we see countries such as Turkey playing an active role in determining this result. On the other side, there are some things that the administration currently are doing that are going to have consequences in the near future. One of them include their position towards Venezuela. As I said, even yesterday, the leader of the United States of America had said that Venezuelan airspace should be completely closed off in its entirety. That is a tactic to harm the economy there in Venezuela. And as I was saying earlier, the oil producing nations are are being called by Venezuela so that everyone can immediately force the United States to denounce this threat. So, of course, it will have international issues raised in the coming days. United Kingdom government, the UK government have said that these attacks on these drug boats or suspected drug boats, alleged drug boats, are of course a crime in international waters. This is the comment made by the United Kingdom. And some of the islands in the Caribbean are of course controlled by the United Kingdom, and they have stopped sharing intelligence sources as latest as on October. So once again, there are some things that Donald Trump is doing that a traditional president of the United States does not do. And one of them that you mentioned has sent his son-in-law in Gaza to understand whether or not what they can do in reconstruction of Gaza. And when we talk about Israel and Gaza, I just want to mention that there is a news. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is seeking the presidential pardon over corruption charges. Of course, the President Isaac Herzog is now having to make a difficult decision as protesters are outside saying that he should not be pardoned.
Excellent, excellent information you have included in the topics. When we'll come to Israel-Gaza issue, definitely I'll ask you some two tough questions regarding this, because we still see that IDF is continuously attacking in Lebanon, South Lebanon, and in also in Gaza.
Yes.
As a politician, you have to face a tough question right this moment, because we know negotiation means win-win situation for both the parties. But here we see the negotiator himself is trying to give benefit to Vladimir Putin, to Russia, not to Ukraine. So it is not a win-win situation negotiation. It is a winning and losing situation, because Volodymyr Zelensky and Ukrainians has to concede 35% of their sovereign land. How you going to explain as a politician, as an academician?
Well, the earlier what I was trying to say, what Trump is doing, in a way, he's going very fast, and it's a non-structure. But in the meantime, we had seen some result. In Gaza, 75,000 people were killed. Everybody chip up their mouth. Nobody talks. The same thing, 3.5 years. The Ukraine war is going on. The whole world was affected by Ukraine war, but nobody was talking of that. In this regards, Trump came forward and started talking about it and trying to renegotiate it. That's a good sign. In other cases, Trump has to look what the Ukraine people want. As you say, 35% of the land they will lose their sovereignty, and they cannot go to the NATO. Why Ukraine went to the NATO? Because they want the protection. Is Russia will give lifelong protection to Ukraine? No. So all this thing has to be in consideration. And Trump is thinking his limited time is 4 years. Within these 4 years, he wants to be the world leader, world hero, bypassing UN. That's not the right way. Rather, UN also delaying technique is wasting time and wasting the world's economy, all those things. But finally, what I understand, we must understand the feelings of the Ukraine people, what really they want, why they fought for, what Russia want, why they are having the aggravation against their land, and they are trying to go and acquisition the lands of the Ukraine. All this factor has to be together. That's the reason certain negotiation cannot be fast-tracked like business. It has to take their time and reconsider all the points and then come and negotiate. You see, the small country, if they are not a part of negotiation, they are losing, and they are losing their, interest to be involved in this, question of the world.
Very structured,
Small
documented.
country has to be invited, and they have to talk. If you don't allow, let's say Bangladesh is a small country, in future you don't allow the small country to talk their rights, their freedom, their sovereignty, then the world is going to be in other direction.
I really appreciate you have used so many tough words. You have really related so many emotional things also, and the meaning I understand as a very ordinary journalist, that there will be no compromise on national security, sovereignty, interest and integrity. Norman, I want to conclude these topics asking two back-to-back questions to you. One is related international affairs, one is related US domestic affairs. Is the US acting impartially or too much in its own interest when mediating wars like Ukraine or Gaza? On the other side, I have a domestic question. How might domestic US politics influence the credibility and sustainability of these peace efforts abroad, where in United States killing are going on, National Guards are deployed, and Donald Trump is going to be authoritarian day by day? Mr. Norman.
Yes, I appreciate the questions. It is looking at the situation. The current administration is characterized by speed, leverage, and transactions. As a result of that, it is basically conflicting with traditional process that we have already put in place. So we're looking at a whole new way of doing things. The problem with that is it's causing a credibility gap for the United States, meaning our traditional allies are now looking at the United States as not stable. Do we continue to work with them? Are they looking for their self-interest? Uh, are they impartial? Are they trying to basically gain financially, economically at the expense of the allies? So there's a big issue. I look at this action as what we call a a dangerous global precedent, meaning the how this thing is playing out is basically saying that if everything goes through, that borders can be changed by force, which undermines the basic principle of international order. Borders can be changed if they allow this thing going. They tolerate it. So you can forcibly take people land and hold it and claim it, and everything is okay. This is not going to look well in the future. How this thing plays out between Russia and Ukraine, if Ukraine is allowed to keep, Ukraine is forced to accept these terms, it sets a whole new standard globally. You can take people land and you can hold it, and nobody is going to do anything about it. I don't think this is going to go very well, particularly in Europe. Europe is very close to Russia, and this ceasefire, even this peace negotiation, gives Russia an opportunity to reset, to basically build back up their forces, build back their infrastructure, and continue with the seizing of land, meaning Europe. The conquest is going on. So this is I think it's very serious. It needs to be looked at, and it should not be accepted by Ukraine or the rest of the world. So let's see what's happening, how this thing plays out, but it's setting up a standard that it hasn't been seen before, that you can forcibly take someone's land and nobody's going to say anything about it.
So much appreciation, Norman Floyd Barnes. A very structured and very constructive speech commentary you have done. But Washington Post has drawn the bottom line. Let me read it out for the audience and for you as well. Russia-Ukraine war and shifting diplomacy and battlefield developments. Washington Post has written, Russian missiles and drone attacks on Kiev continue even as peace negotiations are underway, and Washington Post determined, they said, that it will be continued because this is the nature of Vladimir Putin, former KGB guy. And the revised US-Ukraine peace plan, 19-point new updated version is now being negotiated after the original draft, widely criticized as pro-Russian, pro-Putin, pro-Russian generals, was significantly revised, but still Volodymyr Zelensky is unhappy. Ladies and gentlemen, we will move into Israel-Gaza war and regional stability, peace deal efforts, but after a short commercial break.
সারা দেশে লাখো মানুষের কঠোর কর্মতৎপরতা ও নিষ্ঠায় এসএ পরিবহন পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস এখন 16 কোটি মানুষের হাতের নাগালে। দীর্ঘ 30 বছর ধরে বিশ্বস্ততা ও দ্রুততার সাথে সেবা দেওয়ায় গ্রাহক সেবায় এখন শীর্ষে। বাংলাদেশে গ্রাহক সেবার সাফল্যের পর এসএ পরিবহন পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস এখন বিশ্ব বাণিজ্য কেন্দ্র সিঙ্গাপুরে। আপনার যে কোনো পণ্য সিঙ্গাপুর থেকে বাংলাদেশে বুকিং এর জন্য যোগাযোগ করুন। এসএ পরিবহন প্রাইভেট লিমিটেড, লজিস্টিক্স পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস, 22 রবার্টস লেন, সিঙ্গাপুর 218302। ফোন 0065 629 24900। বাংলাদেশ থেকে সিঙ্গাপুরে পণ্য বুকিং এর জন্য যোগাযোগ করুন ঢাকা সহ দেশের যে কোনো 80টি শাখা কেন্দ্রে। এসএ পরিবহন পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস, আপনার সেবা সব সময়।
Welcome, Grand Palace Hotel, Dhaka. A majestic lobby blending timeless elegance with modern design. Experience 5-star.
A ceasefire and a peace roadmap for Gaza backed by the United Nations has recently gained traction, though big obstacles still remain. Ladies and gentlemen, the conflict's wider regional and geopolitical implications remain volatile, with implications for Middle East stability. Let us look at the Gaza issue. Already, former Education Minister says 75,000 Gazan has been killed, 67% of Gaza area totally destroyed, and 30% has semi-destroyed. So what is left? Let me do the first question to Norman. Norman, let me know, is the newly brokered ceasefire and peace roadmap for Gaza likely to hold, or it is just a temporary pause to be more prepared, to be a stronger preparation for Netanyahu and IDF, because last night they hit south of Lebanon, where Pope is visiting right this moment. This is a very significant attack. This is a message to the world that IDF will never stop their attacking to the countries neighboring them.
Yes, you basically put it. Israel is not prepared to stop. They have a mission, they have a focus, and they have not given the world any indications that they are going to slow up on their ambitions of taking over the whole area. This is very unfortunate because it's going to affect the process of peace. The peace plan is slowly breaking apart. It's becoming fragile. Is not working. I'm very concerned that the Middle East allies who came up and said they want to help is now backing away in terms of providing physical military support to this. There's no Muslims, there's no Middle East countries that has indicated that they want to come in and provide security. Without the security plan, investments, reconstruction is not going to happen. Investors are not going to go into a minefield. And basically that's what we're dealing with, a minefield. So anything that happens right now is predicated on basically getting stability there. Israel is still pushing their aggression, their plan, their military approach is basically is to level the area out, destroy, and complete total defeat of Hamas and the area. So we have to really look at the situation. Is this plausible? Is this doable without the involvement of the players in the Middle East? Turkey has basically been shied away because of the approach by the United States. They are not involved like they want to be. And the Middle East players are basically sitting on their hands and not doing anything. So this is a very problem. I don't see any type of real-time, long-term, permanent solution. Right now we in this freeze, just like we have in Ukraine. We in a winter freeze, and people are not moving forward. They just want to sit on their hands and just hold steady for what they have already achieved.
All right, Sir Norman, I totally agree with you, but let's check the international affairs commentator Shamsul Pantha's opinion. Sir, what must be done to ensure reconstruction and long-term peace in Gaza beyond just a ceasefire? Because you see, news are coming. 8 trucks are still stuck. IDF is not allowing 8 trucks. Pure drinking water, food, medicine, clothes. So what is the prospect?
Thank you so much, Mr. Kanchan. When one talks about Gaza, it cannot ignore the fact that severe loss of life has been done by the courtesy of the IDF by indiscriminate bombing of several places. One of those include a hospital. A hospital does not have any kind of retaliatory remark towards any nation. So blowing up a hospital only shows how gruesome the Israeli administration can be. At this moment, the death toll has surpassed 75,000. And of course, in a recent offensive, Israel claims to have killed almost 40 fighters of the Hamas group that were working in the humanitarian Gaza issue, but they were also positioned inside the tunnels below Gaza, which have almost 40 soldiers have been killed. And of course, at this moment, the United Nations Security Council says that they're going to pass a resolution to understand how to rebuild Gaza. But one of the main elements of this reconstruction of Gaza does include the determination of a Palestinian statehood, but these are the topics that have been ignored as far as I know. Donald Trump's administration is trying to rebuild Gaza, but it is expected to cost at least US 70 billion US dollars, and it's going to take not just one decade but multiple decades given the current scenario and situation in Gaza. And of course, Pope Leo XIV, as you know, is an American as well, and he was visiting Turkey, and now he's set to visit Lebanon, a nation that has been numerously bombed by the Israeli Defense Forces and Israeli administration. And as of recent, even southern Lebanon, they had taken out the leader of Hezbollah as of very recently. Even last week, we were covering the news. Once again, I would want to reiterate the fact that bringing Gaza to a modern-day metropolis city is a faraway dream, because they cannot give the determination that the Palestinians have been wanting for the better half of the last 80 years.
Yes, sir. It's just a hope. Let's check with a social activist who is widely known for his social activities in his area and around the country, former education minister and an academician. Sir, how does the Gaza deal reshape power dynamics in the Middle East, regionally and globally?
Yes, this is a very important question. So far I see, first of all, I have to be hopeful to see ahead. I cannot go back, all right? In this case, I see hopeful. At the same context, I see it's a fragile. Why I say fragile? Because the reason for this war, starting from 1960s and after 1920, Abraham Accord, that was also for negotiating the Gaza and Palestine problem. You see, the Judaism, Islamism, everybody sat together and they tried to negotiate their rights and values in the Arabian, in the region. But it didn't work. Why it didn't work? They have to look that very carefully. Well, Norman said, if Trump wants to be deal broker, or if he has an ambition in short-term negotiation, that would not stay for a quite long time. In this case, I see hope because Egypt, Qatar, and United States of America, they are involved there. Well, United States has the intention that the other big power like Russia or China should not be involved in this region. So that also they're looking ahead and they're keeping that in their mind. He's trying to move fast. But as an Arabian understood very clearly that if United States say stop as a big brother, it has to be stopped. Now, how they will prolong their country? Is there anything negotiating like hostage negotiation, prisoner negotiation, like Pantu said, the rebuilding Gaza, and the administration? Who will be the next administration? These things are untouched. So,
all right.
Yes.
Sir, you are very smart. I must say, at the age of this stage, you are very smart. As Norman has time limitation, I will have to pick up some very important things from Norman. Norman, I will have two back-to-back questions for you. What role should international actors like United Nations, regional powers play to ensure fairness and prevent further escalation? Can a lasting solution be achieved without addressing underlying political grievances or is military ceasefire insufficient? I want to give you one information. There are 4 kind of establishment in the world: military establishment, tech establishment, corporate establishment, and also political establishment. So far I understand, as a very tiny journalist in this industry, except military industry, all establishment are trying to stop the war because it is going to hamper their business.
Thank you for the questions. We know that the United States is a large manufacturer of weapons. They make money by selling weapons. The concept of peace, ceasefire is contrary to that financial mission. So we have to really look at the situation. Who wins in this situation? Do we have a ceasefire? Do we have peace? Or do we have profits? The current administration and everything I've seen so far is focused on the profits and the wins, and moving forward and making these spectacular deals where they can profit from it. I don't see any change in that attitude, that concept. Nothing has stuck out or came to the table that will change that attitude.
I understand, Norman. I really appreciate the way you talk, the way you deliver, the way you release so many sensitive things with a very humble manner. We are learning from you, Norman. Thank you very much. Have a great day. I want to come back to Shamsul Alam Panthu. Sir, my question would be relevant to Bangladesh. If so many war goes on, Bangladesh is a importing dependent country. Bangladesh, everything depends on the well price, because agriculture to transportation, product price, consumer product price, your hotel business, your transportation business. Would you please let us know why the Arabian countries who exports well to the world are not becoming united and protesting strongly to America not to continue this war?
Thank you so much for the question. I understand that it's a broad spectrum question. It will take some time for me to understand. First of all, oil producing nations is not just Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Bahrain. It also includes Iran, Venezuela, Russia, and many other countries as a whole. But one must include the fact of innovation. People are moving away from an oil-based economy. You look at Mohammed bin Salman, MBS, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. He is trying to build Saudi Arabia in other economic strongholds other than fossil fuels that are important to run combustion like machinery around the world. But of course, they should stop this war, as it is affecting not just Bangladesh's economy, but economies as a whole. Today, I want to give an example of how a nation, an island nation, has changed the face of Asia. I'm of course talking about Singapore. We see Lee Kuan Yew, when he was abolished, when he was dismembered from Malaysia, or being entitled as an island of Malaysia, he made strict reforms and rules in the island nation of Singapore. He said the language must be English. There is no doubt about it. He set a governing rule, and he made sure that the island nation can turn into a bustling megacity for the entirety of the Asia Pacific region. That is just only one example. If you come back to the case of Bangladesh, it's been 54 years we have gained some kind of an independence from foreign forces, and we must understand how our sovereignty is being questioned on a daily basis. Ever since 2018, we have a refugee crisis happening in one corner of our country. We cannot ignore the fact that the neighboring country, Myanmar, is going through some kind of radical change as well. We must address these issues, if not by the interim government, by any kind of government that is coming in the future days. That is just one example. While the neighborhood seems to be very volatile, we have China in the north, we have India in the west, and in the east we have the Southeast Asian regions as well as Myanmar. we must understand where Bangladesh stands. What is our national goal? Where are we in the international stage? We know that if you look at population, we are 7th in the entire globe. So it's fairly to say that our manpower is not going to be of shortage. However, the resources are going to be strained to a certain extent. To my understanding, I would want to see a Bangladesh that is very dependent on itself. It is self-committing to its own perspectives. I don't want to see a nation that is dependent on another nation, because that is only a time bomb that can go off and harm all of our 200 million citizens that reside here.
I'm so impressed, sir, on your very vast and wide range of statements. After Shamsul Pantho, I don't want to do any question to a politician who himself was a sitting minister, who is an academician, who is a social activist. Sir, in Bangladesh, we have seen nepotism is too much. We have seen in all the big political parties. One's father is a founder, he brought his legacy. Once someone is successful in politics, he brings his legacy, sons or daughters or wives or sisters, they bring. Don't you think that carrying this legacy put Bangladesh behind the development?
Well,
and one more question, are you planning to bring anyone from your family as a politician committed to the screen today?
well, you see, this is a very important question. As you mentioned, the family legacy.
I call it nepotism, sir.
Well, nepotism has a competition also. As we have seen, the first Sister Awami League, she was carrying the legacy from his father, and finally she could not hold of it, and she has to flee the country. So family legacy could put them in drain and destroy their political, personal agenda, as well as the people who supported this fascist government. They destroyed, or she destroyed, these political legacy carriers, the people who support Awami League, and their fate also in dangerous situation because of the family legacy. Well, now come to other side of the coin, the BNP. Well, if you are a doctor, you want to make your son doctor. If you want to be a lawyer, your son could join in the lawyer. But when your son goes to the practice, he has to be a good practitioner. When your son became a doctor, son doctor, he has to be a great doctor to go with his practice. I mean, clearly explain to you. Let's say you are a businessman. Your father, you inherited a business from your father. If you don't properly handle this business, one day it would be monster and destroy your whole father's legacy in one shot. I mean, family legacy doesn't mean that it will build his career. Let's come to our party politics, a BNP. If you want to mention that Begum Khaleda Zia and President Zia's legacy carried by the Tariq Rahman, come to the first point. The late President Ziaur Rahman, his legacy did not carried by Begum Khaleda Zia. Why I said it? Because the party was in a position there should not be regained, but somehow it stands again. The same way, now the BNP is the largest democratic party in the world, and it is built by Tariq
according
Rahman.
to the editorial policy, I don't have any right to comment on your statement, but I have a question to Shamsul Alam Pantho. He had the opportunity to study in one of the finest educational institute in Singapore, sir. Lee Kuan Yew recommended home from his family to carry out his legacy to rebuild or develop Singapore. Please be honest.
Well, if you look at dynasty politics, even there, his son did become the leader of the nation. Of course, he had served a tenure, but in 2015 when he passed away, I was in Singapore at that time, and I've seen how the national state of mourning was established for 3 days just to see him in his coffin laid in rest. It was a line queue over 6 kilometers of people just lining up to see him one last time. Because this leader had established that he will end corruption in the island state, he had made sure of his People's Action Party, the PAP party, to make sure of the citizens' need. He had removed slums and he had built government-funded housing projects, the HDB, Housing Development Board, which had given regular Singaporeans a chance to have a proper living. So he was a leader who understood the vibes of his people. And of course, I was hearing Dr. Millen here and we understand the leader of his party is in life condition, as I see the social media posts. So it is recalling to a time when I've seen the leader Lee Kuan Yew taking away. And of course, he is going to be loved by not only Singaporeans but Asians in general, because he was kicked out of Malaysia, the UNMO, if you call it, United Malaysian Organization. But when he was kicked out, he was in anguish. He was crying on live TV. He did not know how to lead this island nation. And of course, today, if you look at it, when we talk about Asia Pacific, every big conglomerate is situated in Singapore.
Yes, sir. That's the example should be learned by all politicians. Ladies and gentlemen, being a student of political science, I have learned two definitions for politics, sir. I want to share with you. One is, if the political leader is a pro-people, his job is to bring the country in the right track if country goes into the right track. His job is to bring the country in the right track if country goes into the wrong track. But if the politician is a monster, I mean monster, his job is to make money, power, and to acquire the rights of ordinary citizen. Ladies and gentlemen, we have more discussions, but according to the commercial rule, we will have to go for a commercial break.
সারা দেশে লাখো মানুষের কঠোর কর্মতৎপরতা ও নিষ্ঠায় এসএ পরিবহন পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস এখন 16 কোটি মানুষের হাতের নাগালে। দীর্ঘ 30 বছর ধরে বিশ্বস্ততা ও দ্রুততার সাথে সেবা দেওয়ায় গ্রাহক সেবায় এখন শীর্ষে। বাংলাদেশে গ্রাহক সেবার সাফল্যের পর এসএ পরিবহন পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস এখন বিশ্ব বাণিজ্য কেন্দ্র সিঙ্গাপুরে। আপনার যে কোনো পণ্য সিঙ্গাপুর থেকে বাংলাদেশে বুকিং এর জন্য যোগাযোগ করুন। এসএ পরিবহন প্রাইভেট লিমিটেড, লজিস্টিক্স পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস, 22 রবার্টস লেন, সিঙ্গাপুর 218302। ফোন 0065 629 24900। বাংলাদেশ থেকে সিঙ্গাপুরে পণ্য বুকিং এর জন্য যোগাযোগ করুন ঢাকা সহ দেশের যে কোনো 80টি শাখা কেন্দ্রে। এসএ পরিবহন পার্সেল অ্যান্ড কুরিয়ার সার্ভিস, আপনার সেবা সব সময়।
Welcome, Grand Palace Hotel, Dhaka. A majestic lobby blending timeless elegance with modern design. Experience 5-star comfort in suites and rooms. Sophisticated.
Ladies and gentlemen, we always and often update you regarding the climate change of this planet, biodiversity, animal preservation, and of course human civilization. The question comes, why this is so important? This is so important because we have to save our planet. I want to begin with Shamsul Alam Panthu. He is very interested on climate change, biodiversity, animal preservation, forest reservation, and of course human civilization. Sir, what is the latest? You know, you have seen the Sri Lanka flood, Indonesia, Thailand, huge devastation is going on.
Well, last week I was theorizing how there was a deep depression inside the Bay of Bengal. Unlucky for some, but lucky for us that it had not come to the mangroves of the Sundarban rainforest and of course making landfall in Bangladesh. But it had ripped through Sri Lanka and southern Thailand. As what I know, flooding is occurring, landslides are happening. It has claimed upwards of 400 plus people's lives and displaced thousands around these regions. And the date is December 1st. One can theorize that around the equator or around the center of the planet, having such a monsoon spell in the month of December is unprecedented. And of course, it had come without any kind of warning. There was no warning that it would make landfall in Sri Lanka and southern of Thailand. As see, it's not just flooding, it's landslides as well as a result of continuous rainfall. These implications does have severe importance to the livelihoods of millions of people. And no, Today, the chief advisor of Bangladesh, Mohammad Yunus, had written a letter providing his condolences and support towards the Sri Lankan government. And we know Sri Lanka is also one of those economies that had overthrown its leader. It has certain ties back to Bangladesh, if not economic, but definitely cultural ties between the two nations. So, of course, it has a great significance when you talk about human aspirations. But I would want to see a more cooperation between these countries in the Bay of Bengal, as it is a hotspot for cyclones a year on around.
Being a journalist and being a businessman, being an entrepreneur, you are so concerned. But why political leaders are not concerned? I want to do this question to a politician. Sir, you serve to the nation. Thank you very much for your service to the nation, especially in the academic section, education sector. I want to know from you why the political leaders or the high officials of this country are not concerned about this issue, biodiversity and of course climate issue, why they are not able to negotiate with the world superpowers to bring back our rights to live in this planet safely.
You see, the world is getting imbalanced and our ozone layer is destroying by the developed nation, those who are industrialized. And they are using our world resource, the ozone layer and the eco-balance environment by the industrial nation, those who are leading the world. It is their responsibility rather than the responsibility of the small countries like Bangladesh. But it happens, everybody are facing the same music. So realization has to come by the developed nation. And the smaller nation like Bangladesh, who are facing this pain severely and devastatingly, we have to raise our voice. Domestically, our government, previous, past, current, every government has expressed their concern regarding this matter. But we have to raise our voice more clearly to get a better world and to see our future generation can live in this world, including all plants and animals and everything. I want to raise my voice as well as the next political government will raise the voice in United Nations and all others. You see, practically speaking, in Bangladesh, in the monsoon season, as he mentioned, the flood comes from the upper riparian and goes to the lower riparian. It destroys our whole countries. In the dry season, the saline water get into our paddy field, agriculture field, and it salinized our agriculture field and it destroyed our productions of other agricultural products. And these are the problem with our neighbor country. We raised this point in United Nations in 1980s. Late President Ziaur Rahman raised this point.
Don't you want to acknowledge the failure of the leaderships?
Well, that I mean that the previous government failed to negotiate with the border country.
Only previous government?
Of course, I see that. It was a 34,000 cubic during BNP time.
When sir, you are talking about the climate change, I have received a breaking news from Global Seismic Activity Update today in the planet. 37 earthquake took place and people have been witnessed last week in Bangladesh. What happened? I can read out the news. Global Seismic Activity Update is saying, according to recent monitoring, on December 1, only today, the world recorded multiple earthquakes, 2 quakes 5 plus and 37 quakes 4. Though current overall seismic activity remains low, but 37 plus 2 equal to 39 earthquakes took place in a single day, still days in the middle of the day. Ladies and gentlemen, today is a World's AIDS Day. Today marks the annual global observance calling for renewed efforts for high HIV/AIDS. The World Health Organization and partners urge expanded access to prevention tools and services, including newer options such as lenacapavir, and strengthen the global awareness. And one more birthday I just want to wish today. He is called the father of professional golf. His name is Lee Trevino. He is very popular American golf legend, widely respected in the world of professional golf tournament. I wish you all the best to viewers. Have a safe day and we will see tomorrow.